How my 32 million party turned dark. The shocking moment I saw my daughter at midnight. The night was supposed to be legendary. A 32 million bash, filled with glitz, glamour, and all the Hollywood elite. The sun dipped low, casting a fiery red glow across the manicured lawns of my estate. Lights twinkled like stars, and music pulsed like a heartbeat. Everything was perfect. But as midnight approached, the air thickened with an unsettling tension that no one could shake. Laughter echoed, but beneath it lurked an undercurrent of anxiety. Guests exchanged nervous glances. Sensing something wrong, it started with a flicker, a slight shudder of the expensive crystal chandeliers dangling from the ceiling, causing shadows to dance eerily on the walls. Then, the lights cut out, plunging the extravagant party into darkness. Panic swept through the crowd. Whispers slipped through lips like secrets. What's happening? Is this part of the show? Everyone's faces twisted in concern, but my heart pounded hard, a warning drum inside my chest. When the lights flickered back on, I felt something shift inside me. The glamorous exterior now wore a stark new layer of fear. I scanned the crowd, searching for my daughter, Amelia. She had been dancing just moments before, her laughter lilting above the music. But she was gone. The moment I realized she was missing, a chill crawled up my spine. My throat tightened like a vice. I called her name, desperation flaring in my voice. Amelia, where are you? I pushed through the throng, the laughter fading into a haunting echo as an uncomfortable silence wrapped around me. Then, my heart sank. There she stood, just a few feet away, her back to me. The moonlight spilled softly over her, casting an ethereal glow that made her look almost unreal. But something was off. Her shoulders were tense, her head hung low, and at that moment, I knew something was terribly wrong. The music faded, replaced by the thundering of my heartbeat, and panic clawed at my insides. I stepped closer. What could have possibly pulled her into this dark haze? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I took a breath, steeling myself to confront whatever shadow loomed over my daughter. Two guests whispered harshly nearby, their words biting through the night air. Did you see her? She seemed different. Something's not right. Every word drove a nail deeper into my gut. The laughter had gone. All that was left was an unsettling winding feeling in my chest. I willed myself to look closer, determined to pull her from whatever dark influence had gripped her. As I stepped into her line of sight, my stomach plummeted. Amelia turned slowly, her eyes haunted, unrecognizable. They were a void, deep and dark, and for a moment, I felt an electric jolt of fear shoot through me. My mind screamed for answers as other partygoers began to huddle together, casting nervous glances, murmurs of unease rising like a tide pulling us all under. What had happened to my daughter? Why did she seem so distant, so lost? The questions twisted in my mind like a whirlwind. I felt suffocated by a sense of urgency. I had to break through to her. I reached out a trembling hand, conflicted by the growing dread. What had become of this glorious night? My world balanced on the edge of a knife, and glance by glance, I felt the party fade into a distant memory, swallowed by the darkness that had started to wrap around us. Would I be able to pull her back from whatever lurked within those lost eyes? Time was running out. I stretched out my hand, desperate to bridge the distance between us. Amelia's reaction was sudden. Her body flinched, drawing away as if my presence burned. The world around us pulsed with tension, guests murmuring and pointing, their eyes wide with concern or fear. A chill rippled through me. This wasn't the child I knew, the vibrant, laughing girl who had lit up the room just hours earlier. Amelia, I urged, my voice a strained whisper that cracked under the weight of dread. Please talk to me. Her gaze faltered, shifting briefly to the ground. I felt the room inhale sharply, an audience caught in an awful silence as if sensing the gravity of the moment. What had happened in those few moments of darkness? What shadow had crept in while I had searched for her? Suddenly, she raised her eyes, locking onto mine. But they weren't just vacant. They were swirling with something ancient and unsettling. A freezing fear washed over me, wrapping around my heart like a vice. Mom, her voice was barely above a hiss, each word weighed down by something I couldn't comprehensively grasp. You shouldn't have come. Those words settled in the air like a dense fog, heavy and suffocating. Guests shifted uneasily, some backing away, their faces contorted in confusion and alarm. The laughter had morphed into whispers, questions darting around the crowd as I stood frozen. What do you mean? I pressed, desperation tinging my voice. What's going on? Amelia's face twisted in a grimace. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Her whisper sent fresh shivers through me. I stepped in closer, trying to break through the wall she had formed around herself. You're scaring me, sweetheart. Just tell me who you were with. Where did you go? A flicker of something fear, pain crossed her face. Something else had changed in her, a flicker I couldn't quite place. The moment hung heavy between us before she spoke again, her tone chilling me through and through. You don't want to know. Panic ignited within me. A dark premonition coiled tighter around my spine. What did she mean? My thoughts spiraled, and I quickly glanced around at the guests. Their expressions now a mixture of uncertainty and apprehension. They had witnessed something, they could feel it in their bones. I could almost hear their collective heartbeat, frantic and wrong. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the tension, drawing everyone's attention away momentarily. A nearby buffet table had collapsed, food scattering everywhere, and the room erupted into chaos. People darted around, seeking safety, but my focus remained on Amelia. Stay with me, I urged, grabbing her arm, grounding myself in that moment. But her eyes flickered again, a flicker of fear mingling with something darker, a haunting recognition. You need to go now, she said, voice trembling. I felt the crowd swirl around us, the light of the chandeliers reflecting panic and confusion. What was happening? What force had taken hold of my child? I had to protect her. I had to fight whatever this was. But just as I was about to pull her into my embrace, she jerked away, her eyes glimmering with that unrecognizable depth again. Mom, please. The urgency in her voice gripped my heart. I stood teetering on the edge of horror, uncertainty clawing at my insides. What was I supposed to do now? Leave her? Stay? A shadow flitted behind her, and my stomach dropped. I realized the threat was much closer than I had ever imagined. Amelia, I shrieked, reaching out once more, but she was already fading, her figure swallowed by the chaos around us. A rush of voices drowned out my thoughts, the fading music taking on an eerie input of distortion. I felt lost in the sleepy drowning of glamour and chaos. I couldn't let this night end without answers. What waited for me in the shadows? And as I blinked back tears of confusion and fear, something moved in the periphery, something that felt impossibly sinister. I had to follow. It was my only chance to save Amelia from whatever darkness had eclipsed her soul. With renewed desperation, I plunged into the fray, stepping into the unknown. What awaited me in the darkness? I surged forward, adrenaline propelling me through the chaos. Guests stumbled over fallen trays and spilled drinks, their faces a blur of panic. All my focus zeroed in on Amelia's last glimpse, a glance blanketed in terror. Where had she gone? I strained my eyes into the darkened corners of the room, looking for a sign of her, a hint of movement, something that would tell me she was safe. Amelia! My voice echoed off the gilded walls, desperation threading through my words. I ducked beneath a knot of frantically murmuring guests, pushing past a man who stood frozen with shock. A flickering light caught my attention from the far side of the room. I began weaving through the scattered crowd, my heart hammering in my chest, a relentless drumbeat of fear. With each step, The ominous weight in the air thickened, wrapping around me like a cloak of dread. "Stay together," I heard someone shout in the distance, but it barely registered. All I could think about was Amelia and what could possibly be happening to her. The light flickered again, pulsing like a heartbeat, catching my eye. I turned and dashed toward it, knowing I was drawing closer to whatever reality my daughter had vanished into. As I neared the edge of the crowd, I caught sight of a figure standing against the wall, alone, cloaked in darkness. My breath hitched. It was a man, tall and imposing, his face obscured by shadows. His presence radiated an unsettling calm that sent a jolt of instinctive fear through me. "Amelia!" I shouted again, searching his face for any trace of her, desperation clawing at my throat. The man didn't move, just stood there, as if waiting. Waiting for what? My instincts screamed to turn back, but I pressed on, my resolve hardening. Just as I began to circle around him, the room dimmed again, and a heavy silence rolled over the guests like a tidal wave. Gasps punctuated the quiet, breaths caught in throats. I spun around, bewildered, and immediately saw the flicker of a figure slipping through a doorway, illuminated by the stark white light spilling from behind it. "Amelia!" I called, my feet carrying me before my mind could catch up. I rushed toward the open door, brushing past the bewildered onlookers who wanted to be spectators rather than act. The door swung shut behind me with a decisive thud. I plunged into the stark hallway that led deeper into the unknown, my heart hammering louder than my footsteps. The air was thick, heavy with an unsettling energy that made every nerve in my body awaken. "Where are you?" My voice trembled, echoing through the dim passage. It felt alive. The walls seemed to pulse and whisper, like the building itself had its own heartbeat. Ahead, another quick flicker of movement caught my eye. I followed the shadow darting through the flickering, uncertain light, my heart racing faster with each step. I could almost feel the cool fingers of fear closing around my throat. "Is this you? Are you doing this?" I whispered to the empty space, half hoping for an answer. Then, I heard it, a soft, muffled whimper. It clawed at my heart, igniting my soul with urgent dread. It came from deep within the shadows, more fragmented than coherent. I sprinted forward, praying it was Amelia. As I rounded the corner, the world shifted. The door to an old conference room creaked open, the fluorescent bulbs flickering erratically inside. I pushed through, and the sight that met my eyes yanked the breath from my lungs. The room was filled with old memorabilia, pictures lining the walls, trinkets from the past, and in the center stood my daughter, face pale, eyes brimming with tears as she faced a figure I could barely see. "Amelia!" I shouted again, but everything froze as her head snapped around, her face reflecting a terror I couldn't comprehend. "Mom, you shouldn't be here," she screamed, her voice thicker than before, as if a dark force was wrapped around her throat. A chill crept down my spine as the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face I never expected to see. It was someone from my past, someone who should have been long gone. And all at once I realized, some shadows are meant to stay hidden. "What have you done?" I gasped, dread crashing over me like a wave. The figure smiled, and my heart sank that it was only the beginning of a nightmare. "Take her away." The words dripped from the figure's lips like poison. I could see the way Amelia's body stiffened, her wide eyes pleading for help, a silent scream wrapped in confusion and terror. I rushed forward, ready to pull her into my arms, but an invisible force seemed to stretch between me and my daughter, holding me back. "Mom!" she cried, the sound like glass shattering in the silence. Each syllable cut deep, fraying the threads of my composure. I strained against whatever unseen barrier held me captive. "Amelia, I'm coming. Just hold on." I lunged forward, desperation surging through my veins like wildfire. The figure's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed almost too sharp, too predatory. "You should have stayed away," he said, the resonance of his voice sending shivers through the air. "There are things here you don't understand." "Let her go," I screamed, the shout echoing back at me, a sound layered with fear and authority. I felt an inexplicable tug, a shifting of energy, as if the room itself were holding its breath. "Mom, please," Amelia cried again, her voice breaking. I felt the ground beneath me shudder as I found strength I didn't know I possessed. Then I saw it, Amelia's hand, reaching toward me, trembling with both fear and determination. Its smallness was a reminder of how vulnerable she truly was. With every ounce of willpower, I charged forward, a primal instinct flaring within me. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, and shadows exploded around us like a violent storm. I lunged ahead, breaking through the tension, the distance between us collapsing. The world warped and twisted, and for a heartbeat, I felt the cool grip of the unknown at my back. But before I could grasp her hand, an explosion of sound erupted from the dark corners, furniture splintering, glass shattering. The room began to spin wildly, my footing stumbling as the air crackled with electric energy. I could barely hear myself think over the chaos. Voices shrieked and whispered, a mosaic of madness enveloping me. I reached her just as the chaos crescendoed. My heart thudded louder than the discord, but the figure raised a hand, and suddenly, I felt the air thicken, pressing against my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. I said, "Take her away," he thundered. The ceiling groaned, lights burst overhead, raining glass like deadly raindrops. "Mom!" Amelia cried out, her voice piercing through the darkness that threatened to swallow us both. I grasped her arm, pulling her toward me. "We have to go. Now." Our hands bound together, a lifeline in this abyss swirling around us. But something was holding her back. The figure laughed a low, menacing sound that echoed through the hullabaloo. "You think you can escape this? You brought the storm here. You're part of it now, and so is she." "Enough!" I shouted as adrenaline coursed through my body. With a surge of energy, I pulled my daughter to me, feeling the heat of her palm against mine, fingers gripping like they were expelling the darkness. The force around us throbbed at the moment we locked eyes. It was as if the storm paused, waiting for our next move. "Let us go," I yelled, and just as I turned away, I noticed the look in her eyes, an ironic mixture of fear and determination that mirrored my own. In a sudden rush, the darkness surged again, pushing us into a wall of shadow. I closed my eyes, ready to spin back into the chaos of the hall or leap into the uncharted. Fate, it seemed, was rumbling around us, muttering secrets that wanted to remain buried. "We have to figure this out," I whispered to Amelia as I shielded her from the chaos, holding her close, the dark figure looming behind. "Mom, wait," she gasped. What if he isn't the only one here?" That simple question cut through me like a blade, igniting something primal. I turned, realizing at once that we hadn't just walked into a nightmare. We had stepped into something much more complicated. But before I could respond, the figure lunged forward, and just as quickly, the room twisted away from us. "Hold on tight," I yelled, bracing myself for what lay ahead, knowing that the real horror was just beginning. What other shadows awaited in the dark? The world spun as the darkness enveloped us, a tempest of shadows swirling with a life of its own. I felt Amelia's grip tighten around my fingers, her small hand trembling in fear. The sinister figure loomed closer, the faint outline of his form warping through the shadows like a predator moving through tall grass. "Mom!" Amelia's voice was desperate, a lifeline I desperately clung to. I pulled her closer, my heart racing, each beat echoing the urgency of our escape. The boundaries of the room felt like they were collapsing inwards, as if the walls themselves were conspiring to trap us. The figure stopped, his laughter a cruel melody that echoed within the chaos. "You want to run? But do you even know where to go? This place, it feeds on fear, and right now you've got it in heaps." The shadows quivered, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of defiance igniting within me. I had fought too hard to protect Amelia to let this creature win. "We're leaving," I shouted, more to reassure myself than anything else. A shudder ran through the air, and I faced the swirling darkness with resolve. "We need to find a way out," I urged, and as if on cue, the ground beneath us began to shift. A faint glow pulsed ahead, illuminating a possible exit. It was a narrow passage, lined with jagged stones that seemed to beckon us like an oasis in a desert of despair. "Over there," Amelia shouted, and the burst of her voice gave me strength. We darted toward the light, squeezing through the constricting shadows, the chaos behind us swirling like a storm. Just as we reached the mouth of the passage, the figure surged forward. "Foolish choice," he spat, his voice crackling with malice. As he lunged, I grabbed Amelia's waist, propelling us forward through the narrow space. The moment we stepped through, the weight of the darkness fell away like a heavy blanket. We stumbled into an open room, and for an instant, I thought we were safe. But the air was thick with a new energy, one that crackled with tension, almost electric. My senses heightened as I scanned our new surroundings. The walls were adorned with strange symbols that pulsed rhythmically, as if they were alive. And then I saw them, figures huddled in the corners, faces etched with fear, their cries muffled like distant whispers. "Who are they?" Amelia breathed, her voice trembling as she clung to me. "Victims. Just like us." I realized, a chill running down my spine. What had we stumbled into? The figures began to shift, their eyes locking onto us with haunting familiarity. There was something wrong, something deep beneath the surface, and a nagging thought clawed at me. What if they were more connected to the darkness than we imagined? "Stay close," I warned, leading Amelia further into the room. Each step felt heavier, the air thickening with dread. "Mom, what's happening?" she whispered, her face pale in the flickering light. "What if they know what he wants?" I shook my head, desperation gnawing at me. "We have to figure this out before he finds us again." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath our feet, and a soft laughter echoed through the chamber. "You think escaping is enough? You will soon understand the reality of this place and the cost of your defiance." The figure's voice boomed from somewhere behind us. I felt cold sweat trickle down my spine. "Run!" I shouted again, urging Amelia to move faster. But as we turned to flee, the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, and the room shifted ominously around us. As we sprinted deeper into the heart of the unknown, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched from every corner, every shadow. And perhaps we weren't just running from the figure, we were running from something far worse. What hidden truths lay in wait, ready to unravel the very fabric of our reality? The pounding of my heart drowned out everything around us as we raced deeper into the room. I could feel Amelia's small body pressed against mine, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. I tightened my hold on her, terrified that one moment of distraction could pull her from my grasp. The echo of laughter reverberated through the air, warm and sinister, curling around us like smoke. It felt alive, teasing and taunting with each note. As we sprinted, the pulsing symbols on the walls grew menacingly brighter, almost beckoning us closer to some hidden peril. The weight of the atmosphere pressed down, stifling. "Mom, what are those symbols?" Her voice threaded with fear, quaking beneath the ominous glow. "I don't know," I admitted, a knot twisting inside me. "But we can't let them catch us." We rounded a corner and stumbled into another chamber, larger this time but filled with the same oppressive energy. In the center stood a pedestal, draped in shadows, with a glowing orb pulsating atop it. The sight of it pulled at me, an invisible string tugging closer, urging me toward its light. Was it a way out, or a trap? "Mom, it's too bright," Amelia exclaimed, shielding her eyes. I turned to her, desperation clawing at my throat. "Stay close, but don't look directly at it." The frantic pulse of that orb seemed to sync with the wild beating of my heart. "Look," she shouted suddenly, pointing to the huddled figures on the edges of the room. Their eyes glinted with a mix of fear and something else, hunger, perhaps. It hit me like a cold slap. They wanted out too. But at what cost? What if they're trapped here like us? I whispered, glancing back at the growing shadows shifting behind us. The sinister figure was closing in, a predator honing in on its prey. We had to make a choice: the orb, the figures, or the passage behind us. The weight of those choices bore down heavy, a moral ledger shifting inside me. If I could free us, would we be damning those yearning for escape? But the laughter echoed again, louder this time, mocking the very idea of mercy. "Mom!" Amelia cried out, shaking me from my thoughts. I turned to see her staring at one of the figures, a woman, her plea written clearly across her tortured face. "Please," the voice of the woman cut through the air, raw and urgent. "Help us. You don't understand, he'll take your lives." A cold sensation wrapped around my gut. Who was she? How did she know our fate? In that moment, I glimpsed the mirror of our situation. What if they didn't just need our help? What if they wanted to pull us into their chaos? The laughter swelled around us, sending shards of panic through my body. "Run!" I shouted to Amelia, and we darted toward the swirling shadows at the chamber's edge. With each step, the figures stirred, their desperate eyes watching us with a mixture of hope and something darker. The room began to shift as we pushed forward, the air growing thicker, more electric with impending doom. "Mom, I feel it," Amelia whimpered, the tremors of the shadows visibly shaking her small form. "It's like they're pulling me." We pressed on, sprinting, sweat soaking my brow as I battled against an overwhelming urge to turn back. The exit felt further away with every heartbeat. The chamber began to spin, the energy pulsing as if trying to reject us, to pull us down into something we couldn't comprehend. And I glanced back just once to find the figures emerging from the shadows, their hands outstretched, faces twisted in desperation. "No!" I screamed, shielding Amelia as I plunged toward the glowing orb, and then the laughter crescendoed, drowning out my voice, echoing my greatest fear as the light enveloped us. I could only wonder, were we stepping into salvation or an even darker fate? What truths would unfold when the light consumed us whole? The light surrounded us, blinding and intense, an all-consuming force. I felt Amelia's grip slip from my hand for a heart-stopping moment. Panic surged through me, and I reached out, my fingers grazing her wrist just as she was swallowed by the radiance. "Amelia, hold on," I shouted, my voice barely piercing the roar of laughter that filled every inch of space around us. Suddenly, it ceased. The silence hit like a tidal wave, pulling me under. I blinked, trying to adjust to the new reality, and was shocked by the sudden shift in atmosphere. No laughter, no darkness, only an overwhelming blur of color and light. That we stood in what seemed like a grand hall, glittering with an opulence I had never encountered. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, refracting light into 1,000 rainbows. Gold accents adorned every surface, and the faint sound of music floated through the air, a soft, enchanting melody that felt both comforting and unsettling. Mom Amelia's voice was a frail whisper, trembling as she looked around, her wide eyes reflecting the splendor. "Are we safe?" I asked, hoping for reassurance, but doubt gnawed at me like a hungry beast. The room, though beautiful, bore a strange stillness, as if everything waited for something dreadful to unfold. Before I could respond, the atmosphere shifted again. Figures began to materialize from the shadows. They emerged like phantoms, elegantly dressed, their faces painted with unnerving smiles that felt out of place with their otherwise ethereal appearance. They glided towards us, their movements slow and deliberate, yet elegant. "What is this place?" I stepped back instinctively, keeping Amelia close. The air turned thick, a sense of dread crawling up my spine. "You've arrived at the midnight revel," one of them spoke, his voice silky and dangerous, like honey laced with poison. "A feast for the lost and the desperate. What do you want?" My voice quivered, a fragile thread in the monstrous fabric of this unfolding nightmare. I felt the weight of their gaze, hungry, probing. Only to share the joy, another figure chimed in, twirling gracefully, a glimmer of something sharp in her smile. "To experience the moment of true clarity." Her words danced in the air, laced with an appeal I could almost taste, and yet deep inside, I felt the prick of fear. The first figure stepped closer, his eyes glinting. "The orb you touched, it was only the beginning. This is a place where desires become manifest. A choice. To stay with us for eternity, or to make your escape at a price." Amelia glanced at me, confusion etching her little face. "Mom, what does he mean?" "Stay?" I repeated, the word feeling foreign and heavy in my mouth. What do you mean by that? Those who enter cannot leave empty-handed. The figure reached for Amelia, but I instinctively stepped between them. A fierce protectiveness bubbled up, overriding any allure the hall might have had. No, we want to be a part of your game. I felt the fire of defiance ignite within me, but uncertainty lingered. What if escaping meant sacrificing something precious? The figures chuckled softly, a chorus of chilling echoes. The game is already played, dear mother. The clock ticks, and it waits for no one just then. I realized with horror how the music shifted, becoming a dark symphony that pulsed in time with my racing heart. And in the center of it all stood the glowing orb, casting its radiant light once more. It beckoned me like a siren lost to the waves. I turned to Amelia. We have to find a way out. With renewed urgency, we surveyed our surroundings. The exit must be close, but as I peered toward the corridor where the figures stood swaying hypnotically, there was something pressing down on us, urging us to stay, to join the madness. Fingers trembling, I grasped Amelia's hand tightly, ready to defy the growing darkness. But deep inside, I feared what lurked behind us. How much would you be willing to sacrifice to escape? The question lingered in the air, waiting as the shadows loomed closer. The figures moved as one, their eyes unblinking, the echo of their laughter. Returning. Choose wisely, my breath hitched. What price were we about to pay? And as the walls around us began to shift like a living entity, the question burned bright. Would we be able to escape, or were we already lost? The figures advanced, their graceful movements blending into a chilling dance that felt like a drill of nails against my heart. I tried to focus on the glowing orb, its light almost tangible, shimmering in every hue imaginable. But each pulse of brightness seemed to warp the air around it, filling my lungs with dread. Get away from her, I shouted, my voice cracking under the weight of escalating fear. The words hung in the air, a challenge against an unseen force that pressed against my chest. The laughter swelled, chilling and joyous, echoing the chaos thrumming inside me. Amelia clung to my side, her small body trembling, the softness of her innocence a stark contrast to the darkness creeping in. Mom, I'm scared, she whimpered, bringing my focus back to her wide, terrified eyes. In that moment, I felt the full weight of my responsibility. I had to protect her, no matter what that meant. A shadow flitted past us, so swift I could hardly process it. Panic sang in my veins. Amelia, we need to move. I pulled on her hand, turning away from the figures that circled us, each one a blur of opulence dipped in malice. My heart raced as I scanned the hall for an exit, my mind racing with impossibly rapid thoughts. Mom, look, Amelia pointed, her finger trembling, toward a doorway that shimmered with a faint light. It was almost hidden, tucked away behind colossal drapes. The figures paused, their smiles stretching into something predatory. Leave this place and enter the unknown? One of them whispered, their voice dripping with delight as they stepped back. Run, little girl. But remember, nothing is as it seems. The words sliced through me, triggering a primal instinct to flee. I grabbed Amelia's hand, pushing through the crowd, swerving past elegant gowns and sharp tuxedos. They parted like a sea of shadows, giving way, their laughter following us like a dark cloud. Faster, I urged, breath burning in my throat as I sprinted toward the door. The glowing orb pulsed fiercely behind us, almost as if it were alive, angry that we dared to escape its allure. Just a few steps away, my legs felt like lead weights, each movement a Herculean effort against the oppressive atmosphere. The echo of our footsteps resonated against the walls, loud and desperate. I pressed on, fueled by fear and the need to protect Amelia. Mom, the ceiling, Amelia cried, pointing above. I looked up, just in time to see the magnificent crystal chandeliers shake, showering small shards of dazzling light. It's falling. Instinctually, I yanked Amelia closer, shielding her fragile frame with my body. The shards glinted like daggers as they plummeted, casting dangerously sharp shadows across the floor. Keep moving. We dodged the cascade, slipping past terrified guests frozen in shock. Some of them were still smiling, their faces caught in ecstasy even as danger surrounded us, a surreal realization that twisted my stomach. We reached the doorway, dancing light washing over us, beckoning us to the safety beyond. But behind us, the figures had regained their composure. Their silence echoed ominously, piercing through the sweet melody that faded into choking cacophony. "Very well," the first figure called. His voice turned cold, a warning unmasked. "If you choose to escape now, you will lose something dear." I hesitated, confusion battling against the fierce urgency of our escape. But the looming truth left no room for doubt. It was us against them, and the price of despair would not hinder my resolve. "We don't care what you take," I screamed back, shoving Amelia forward. The doorway was inches away, glowing brighter as the music shifted into a violent discord, threatening to pull us down. With one mighty push, we dove into the blinding light, but as we crossed into the new realm, a cold realization hit me harder than any falling crystal. Amelia's hand. It slipped from mine. "No, Amelia!" I shouted, whirling around. The figures, their smiles now grim, danced around us once more, and somewhere deep within the chaos, I heard a voice, Amelia's voice, calling out from the depths of the midnight revel. Trapped but not alone, and as I turned back towards the doorway, the shimmering light dimmed, leaving me with one dreadful question. How much darkness was I willing to face for her light? I stepped forward, waiting for the answer that would determine our fate. I stumbled into the new realm, disoriented and gasping, my heart pounding louder than the manic music swirling around us. The air crackled with a cold energy that felt alive, choking my breath. I blinked against the sudden brightness, searching desperately for Amelia, an urgent need clawing inside me. "Amelia!" I screamed, my voice swallowed by the pulsing chaos around me. The once elegant hall had transformed into a surreal nightmare, twisted columns, frescoes of sorrow, and walls that seemed to warp and breathe with a life of their own. It took only seconds to realize I was alone in this new nightmare. "Don't leave me!" Her voice echoed off the shimmering walls, teasing yet faint like a whisper in a gale. Panic surged again, sharp and electric, making my limbs feel frozen. I started down the corridor, stepping cautiously, every echo amplifying my fears. The figures had followed, flitting between shadows, their forms flickering with delight. "Ah, dear mother, you've entered the midnight revel," one cooed, its voice syrupy sweet but underlined with a sinister edge. "What have you done to her?" The words came out as a hiss, rage boiling behind them. "Nothing yet," another figure replied, twisting its mouth into a wicked grin that threatened to split its face in two. "But if you wish to see Amelia again, you must play our game." "Games?" I spat, incredulity mingling with determination. This wasn't a game. It was a dark abyss that had stolen my daughter. The figure stepped closer, shifting gracefully as if it were gliding on air. "Yes, choices, dear mother. Each choice twists reality into a new shape. You have the power, if you have the courage." "Courage?" I shot back, fists clenched, heart tearing between disbelief and dread. "Courage, 1T, bring her back. We are not the ones who took her," it said, its tone teasing, mocking. "You sought out the glimmering light, and now you must find the darkness to save what you hold dear." My heart sank. The orb, the enchanting glow, it was power, but power always demanded its due. But I had to stay focused. What do I need to do? The shadows swirled, opening a path that flickered with a sinister glow. Follow the path, discover the truths hidden in your heart, and choose wisely. What you desire most will demand the greatest sacrifice. A chill crept over me, wrapping around my spine. What would I have to give up? I had already lost so much. But if there was even a chance. I stepped forward, the path stretching out like a taut wire, leading deeper into the revealed midnight. Each step felt weighty, the air thick with the scent of earth and fear. "Remember, every choice counts," came the soft whisper, a reminder hanging like a blade above my head. "Some choices are irreversible." I leaned into my fear, pushing aside the specter of despair to keep moving. The path forked ahead, one way darker than the other, shadows coiling like serpents. "Amelia!" I called again, each cry dissipating into the oppressive quiet, making my voice feel fragile. Mom, the faint voice flickered like a candle in the dark, guiding me. Yet weaving between hopes and fears, I hesitated at the fork, uncertainty clawing at my gut. The weight of the moment pressed against my chest. Would I choose the dark path, risking everything, or the uncertain light that shimmered ahead? Before I could decide, the laughter erupted once more, cutting through the tension like glass shattering. Time to choose, dear mother, the mocking voice chimed, its echo sending chills crashing like waves over me. And just as I felt momentum building, a shadow leaped forward, blocking my way, the figure lunging, reaching for me, whispering words that promised salvation but felt laced with venom. Do you truly understand the price of your love? The question hung heavy, the beating of my heart growing frantic. I glanced at the paths again, one leading into darkness, the other glimmering with an ethereal light. In that defining moment, I had one decision left, and it might cost me everything. Which way would I go? The chilling laughter wrapped around me, growing louder, and all I could think was, I can't lose her. Amelia, I shouted, bracing myself for whatever lay ahead. But as the figure lunged, the world went black. Darkness enveloped me, a thick mist that smothered sound and light. My heart pounded, each beat echoing in the silent void. Where was Amelia? Where were those infernal figures? Just the thought of them made my skin crawl. This wasn't just a place of nightmares, this was a living horror, and I couldn't breathe. Mom! Her voice flickered in the air like an echo trying to find me. I blinked hard, hoping to push through the haze, yet despair lingered in the corners. Amelia! I shouted again, desperate, raw. Suddenly, a weak glimmer of light broke through the darkness, pulsating, shimmering like a beacon. I stumbled toward it, guided by that familiar voice. Memory surfaced, her laughter, her warmth. Hold on, sweetie. I'm coming. Just hold on. I pushed forward, charging through the shadows that seemed to shift and twist around me. But I stumbled, caught in what felt like invisible tendrils holding me in place. No, I thrashed against them, fighting the weight threatening to pull me under. I had to get to her. I could not lose her to this darkness. The figures appeared again, swirling just out of reach, their whispers curling around me like smoke. You dare defy us again? One spoke, its voice silk and steel. You think courage will grant you your daughter? What will you give to have her back? Anything, I demanded, the words spilling from my lips before I could reconsider. I will sacrifice anything. Laughter erupted like thunder, echoing through the black, jagged edges pressing down on me. Anything? They chimed together, amusement lacing their voices. Do you truly understand that obligation? I pushed through, ignoring their taunts. The glow was closer now. Amelia! I screamed again, focusing on that light, the only hope in this suffocating nightmare. Finally, the shadows retreated, as if my conviction had burned through their spell. Then, she emerged, a trembling figure stepping toward me through the flickering glow. Mom! Her voice, a fragile breath, broke my heart into a million pieces. But I could see it. I could see the lingering shadows around her. You shouldn't have come. It's not safe. In that moment, time froze. There was the small flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, burdened by the weight of whatever darkness lingered. The figures circled us, grinning wider. She belongs to us, they taunted. What will you sacrifice to save her? I couldn't let them take her. They'd already taken so much. Leave her alone. My voice trembled, but I didn't back down. Take me instead. Just let her go. The darkness shifted like water, and the figures were silent, eyes glinting darkly as if weighing my offer. A sacrifice? How deliciously intriguing, they whispered. What will it be? The leader stepped forward, a smile playing across its lips. Sometimes it's not what you offer but what you are willing to lose. A wave of cold surged through me. I could feel it in my bones, the hidden truths gnawing at my heart. But Amelia's wide eyes reflected only fear, and I couldn't bear it. I'll give up anything, I shouted, urgency flowing through my veins. I'd even give up my own bliss. A low rumble accompanied the words, a force sending a tremor through my core. The figures swayed, whispering among themselves. Ah, a passionate mother, courageous indeed. Their voices coiled around us, weaving a web of anticipation. Just then, I remembered the orb. It was a part of this twisted existence, a source of the desires that had trapped us. Take it, I said, my voice steadying, if it helps set us free. The leader chuckled sinisterly, not so simple, dear mother. In return, you will need to face the darkness you fear most, that which lies in your very soul. I hesitated, the weight of my choice pressing heavily upon me. But I couldn't lose her. I wouldn't. I'll face anything for her. With that, the air around us shifted. The shadows danced, coalescing into a swirling vortex of light and darkness, forming an ethereal doorway. My heart raced. Come on, sweetheart. We have to go. I reached for Amelia's hand, holding it tightly. She shook her head, tears shimmering in her eyes. What if? It's a trap? The figures laughed again. Every step is a gamble. Trust me, I said fiercely. We have to try. With one last glance at the swirling shadows, I yanked Amelia forward. Together we charged through the gate, feeling the boundary of fear shatter around us like glass. And in an overwhelming rush, I was filled with blinding light. Everything blurred and expanded. Memories washed over me, Amelia's laugh, her smile, precious moments that sparkled like gold. We soared through the kaleidoscope, propelled by the promise of hope. We could break free. As we reached the other side, the world snapped back into focus. We stumbled, breathless, falling to solid ground amidst a crisp lawn, the familiar sound of crickets chirping in the twilight. I blinked, disoriented. The party still raged on, the cacophony of laughter and music washing over us. Amelia, I pulled her close. You're safe. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of relief. I thought I lost you. I thought I lost you too, I whispered, my heart swelling with gratitude and love. Behind us, the shadows receded, their ominous figures dispersing into the ether as if they had never existed. For now, the midnight revel was behind us, and whatever darkness sought to entrap us had been thwarted. As I looked into my daughter's eyes, I knew that we'd face whatever came next together, hand in hand. The beginning of our return to normalcy shimmered before us like a new dawn breaking. Life would not be the same, but we would create new, beautiful moments together. With a deep breath, wrapping her securely in my arms, I turned back toward the gala. The future lay ahead, bright, unknown, and full of possibility. But before celebrating, I need you all to act. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. True fans know how powerful their support is. Let us keep this journey alive together.